They made her wait in the lobby like she didn't belong. Security blocked her path. Receptionists dismissed her calls. The entire executive floor treated her like an intruder until she opened that leather portfolio and revealed the one thing they never expected: proof that she owned the company they were so desperately trying to protect from her. The marble floor of Hartwell Industries reflected everything: the vaulted glass ceiling, the minimalist chandeliers, the polished shoes of executives gliding toward private elevators. Everything except the woman standing at the reception desk. Simone Hartwell adjusted the collar of her charcoal blazer and waited. The receptionist, a blonde woman in her 30s with a headset and perfectly manicured nails, typed without looking up. Simone had been standing there for 3 minutes. She cleared her throat softly. The receptionist glanced up, her smile faltering for a fraction of a second before resetting into something polite but distant. "Can I help you? I'm here for the 10 o'clock board meeting." The woman's eyes flicked to Simone's face, then down to the leather portfolio tucked under her arm, then back to her computer screen. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm expected." "Name?" "Simone Hartwell." The receptionist's fingers paused over the keyboard. She frowned, scrolling through a digital calendar. "I don't see you listed. Are you with a vendor?" Before Simone could respond, a security guard approached. A broad-shouldered man with a crew cut and a badge that read J. Morrison. He positioned himself slightly too close, arms crossed. "Everything all right here?" The receptionist looked relieved. "She says she has a meeting, but she's not on the list." Morrison's gaze settled on Simone, evaluating. "Ma'am, if you're not scheduled, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Simone met his eyes, her voice calm. "I'm scheduled. Perhaps the system wasn't updated. Then you'll need to come back when it is." The lobby had gone quiet. 3 employees near the coffee station turned to watch. A woman in a cream pantsuit whispered something to her colleague. Morrison's hand moved subtly toward his radio. Simone didn't move. She simply held his gaze, her grandmother's portfolio pressed against her ribs like a shield. They didn't even ask her name. 3 months earlier, Simone had stood in a different kind of lobby, the penthouse office of her investment firm in Lower Manhattan, staring at a contract that would change her life. Hartwell Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing conglomerate with roots in Detroit, branches across the Midwest, and a board of directors so insulated they hadn't noticed the financial rot spreading through their balance sheets. Simone had noticed. She'd spent 18 months quietly purchasing shares through shell entities, watching the stock price tumble as leadership fumbled one quarter after another. When the majority stake finally landed in her portfolio, she didn't announce it. She didn't issue press releases or schedule interviews. She simply accepted the CEO position the board offered, sight unseen, based on credentials submitted through her legal team, and planned an unannounced visit to headquarters. Her mentor, Gerald Wu, had warned her. "They're old guard, Simone. White, male, Midwestern. They'll smile to your face and sharpen knives behind closed doors." Simone had smiled. "Then I won't give them my back." She'd learned that lesson early. Scholarship kid at Princeton, only black woman in her MBA cohort at Wharton, first associate at a venture capital firm that asked her to take notes in meetings for 2 years before letting her pitch a deal. She'd earned every inch of ground she stood on, and she'd done it while watching men with half her talent stumble upward on networks and last names. The leather portfolio she carried had belonged to her grandmother, Dorothy Hartwell, who'd cleaned offices in buildings like this one, who'd saved every dollar to put Simone's mother through community college, who'd sat at a folding table every night teaching Simone that education was the only inheritance that mattered. Dorothy had embossed her initials on the inside cover, D.H. Simone traced them sometimes, when boardrooms felt too cold or negotiations turned hostile. It reminded her why she fought. Now, walking into Hartwell Industries headquarters for the first time, She carried that portfolio like a talisman. The building rose 40 stories above Detroit's skyline, all steel and reflective glass. The lobby gleamed with wealth. Imported marble, modern art installations, a waterfall feature that whispered money with every calculated drip. Simone had reviewed the employee demographics. 73% white, 81% male in leadership, 0 black executives above director level. The culture wasn't just unwelcoming, it was designed to exclude. She wanted to see it for herself before changing it. She didn't expect them to roll out a red carpet. But she also didn't expect to be treated like a threat. Morrison, the security guard, didn't move. He stood between Simone and the executive elevators, his presence a wall of institutional authority. The receptionist had made a phone call, murmured, urgent, and now they waited. Simone checked her watch. 9:47. The board meeting started in 13 minutes. A man emerged from the elevator bank. Late 30s, sandy hair styled with too much gel, navy suit that probably cost $3,000. His name tag read Derek Callahan, executive assistant to the CFO. He assessed Simone with a glance that lasted 2 seconds and told her everything. "Can I help you?" His tone was friendly in the way customer service scripts are friendly. Performative, hollow. "I'm here for the board meeting." Derek's smile tightened. "I coordinate all board meeting logistics. I don't have you on the schedule." Perhaps there was a miscommunication. Perhaps. He clasped his hands, a gesture of patience running thin. "Who did you speak with?" "Your legal counsel's office arranged my attendance." "Legal?" He frowned, pulling out his phone. "What firm are you with?" "I'm not with a firm." "Then I'm confused about why you'd be invited to a closed board session." His eyes flicked to Morrison, a silent signal. "These meetings are confidential. Shareholders and executives only." Simone's jaw tightened. She could feel the stares now. More employees gathering, pretending to check phones or adjust briefcases while watching the scene unfold. A security incident, a disruption, a black woman who didn't know her place. "I understand confidentiality," Simone said evenly. "I'm expected." Derek sighed. The kind of sigh that said he was being incredibly reasonable with someone incredibly difficult. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave contact information with reception. If there's been a scheduling error, someone will reach out. The meeting starts in 11 minutes. Then we definitely don't have time to sort this out. Now." He gestured toward the waiting area near the service elevator. A cluster of modernist chairs positioned beside a potted fern and a vending machine. "You're welcome to wait there, but you cannot proceed to the executive floor without proper clearance." Morrison stepped closer. "Ma'am." Simone looked at the waiting area. She looked at the executive elevators. She looked at Derek Callahan, whose smile had calcified into something smug and immovable. She had one thing they didn't expect, but revealing it now, in this lobby, surrounded by strangers who'd already decided she didn't belong, it would look desperate, defensive. It would give them a story to tell. She made a scene. She pulled rank. She couldn't handle being questioned, so instead, Simone walked to the waiting area. She sat in a chair with a view of the elevator bank. She placed the leather portfolio across her lap and watched the clock tick toward 10. Around her, the lobby returned to its rhythm. Employees stopped staring. The receptionist answered calls. Morrison resumed his patrol. Derek disappeared into an elevator, his phone already pressed to his ear. Nobody looked at her twice. 10 o'clock came and went. Simone sat perfectly still, her hands folded atop the portfolio. From the waiting area, she could see the executive elevator doors, brushed steel, keycard access only. Every few minutes, someone emerged. Men in suits, women in heels, assistants carrying tablets and coffee. They moved with the confidence of people who belonged. She'd been in boardrooms on 3 continents. She'd negotiated deals worth hundreds of millions. She'd sat across from CEOs and hedge fund managers and union leaders, and she'd never once doubted her right to be at the table. But sitting in this waiting area, beside a vending machine that hummed too loud and a fern that needed watering, she felt something old and familiar crawl up her spine. The same feeling she'd had at Princeton when a professor asked if she was in the right classroom. The same feeling at her first investment firm when a partner introduced her as the diversity hire. Rage, yes, but underneath it, something colder. Doubt that didn't belong to her, but had been planted so many times it grew roots anyway. Her phone buzzed. A text from her COO. Board meeting started. "Where are you?" She typed back, "Downstairs. They won't let me up." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, "What?" Simone didn't respond. She closed her eyes and heard her grandmother's voice, rough from decades of cigarettes and night shifts. "Let them underestimate you, baby. Let them think you're small. Then show them who you really are." Dorothy Hartwell had cleaned these buildings. She'd emptied trash cans in corner offices and vacuumed conference rooms where men made decisions that affected thousands of lives. She'd been invisible to them. Furniture, background, and she'd taught Simone that invisibility was a kind of power, if you knew how to use it. Simone opened her eyes. Through the glass doors of the executive suite, she could see the outline of the boardroom, a long table, silhouettes of people seated around it. Her seat was empty. They were starting without her. Simone's rise had been methodical. No shortcuts, no favors, just brutal, unrelenting competence. She'd graduated Princeton summa cum laude with a degree in economics. Wharton gave her an MBA and a network of contacts who didn't return her emails. Her first job was at a venture capital firm where she spent 2 years analyzing deals and watching mediocre men take credit for her work. She left and started her own fund. Small at first, pooled money from former classmates, a few angel investors who believed in her vision. She focused on undervalued manufacturing companies, the kind of unsexy businesses that tech investors ignored. She turned 3 companies profitable in 5 years. Her fund grew. By 38, she had enough capital to make moves that mattered. Hartwell Industries caught her attention because of its name, her grandmother's maiden name, a coincidence that felt like fate. But she stayed interested because of the numbers. The company was bleeding. Outdated processes, bloated executive salaries, contracts that hadn't been renegotiated in a decade. The board was asleep at the wheel. Simone bought in quietly. 10%, then 20, then 45. When she crossed 50%, the board panicked. They didn't know who she was, just that someone was accumulating shares through a network of LLCs. Her lawyer had delivered the news. Dr. Simone Hartwell, majority shareholder, was accepting their offer to serve as CEO. The vote was unanimous, but only because they had no choice. She'd reviewed every executive file. Marcus Trent, the CFO, Yale graduate, 30 years at the company, architect of the financial structures currently under investigation by her forensic accountants. Derek Callahan, his protege and enabler. A dozen vice presidents who'd built careers on loyalty instead of results. The board meeting today was supposed to be her introduction. A formality. A handshake and a speech about shared vision and operational excellence. Instead, she was sitting in a lobby, watching her own company exclude her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a call. She answered. "Ms. Hartwell?" The voice was tight with panic. "This is Jonathan Reed, legal counsel. Where are you?" "In your lobby. Security won't let me upstairs." A pause. "What?" "Your receptionist doesn't have me on the schedule. Your executive assistant suggested I leave a message." "That's—" he sputtered. "That's impossible. I sent the meeting details myself. You're the CEO. Apparently, no one told the front desk." She could hear him moving, his breath quickening. "Stay there. I'm coming down. Don't." "Ms. Hartwell, let the meeting start. I'll be up shortly." Another pause. "Are you sure?" Simone glanced toward the executive elevators. Through the glass, she could see Derek Callahan returning, coffee in hand, laughing with a colleague. "I'm sure," she said. "There's something I need to confirm first." She ended the call, and that lesson, the one Dorothy Hartwell had taught her about invisibility and power, would save her soon. Simone stayed in the waiting area for another 10 minutes, not because she couldn't get upstairs. One call to Reed, and she'd have a cavalry of lawyers and assistants escorting her like royalty. But because she was listening, the lobby was designed with acoustics that funneled sound. Voices carried from the reception desk, from the coffee station, from employees waiting for elevators. She heard fragments. "New CEO supposed to start today. Diversity hire. I heard Marcus said she's got no real manufacturing experience. Probably won't last 6 months." Simone's expression didn't change. She watched the executive elevator doors and waited. At 10:23, those doors opened. 2 men emerged. One she recognized from his file as Marcus Trent, CFO. Silver-haired, 6'2", Wisconsin accent. The other was younger, athletic build, VP of Operations. They stopped at the coffee station 15 feet from where Simone sat, close enough that she could hear every word if she stayed very still. Marcus was speaking, his voice low but confident. "Don't care what her credentials say. She's got no idea how this company actually runs. We keep her focused on optics and PR. Let her play CEO while we handle real operations." The VP laughed. "You think she'll go for that?" "She doesn't have a choice. The board's loyal to me. I've been here 30 years. She's been here 30 seconds. We smile, we nod, we wait her out." Marcus stirred sugar into his coffee with slow, deliberate movements. "Besides, Reed says she's already late to her own first meeting. Not exactly a power move. Where is she? Who knows? Probably got lost." Marcus took a sip. "Women like her. They get the job because someone needs to fill a quota. But actually leading a company like this? That takes relationships, history, trust." He set the cup down. "She'll realize soon enough that she's out of her depth." The VP glanced around, uncomfortable. "You don't think she'll make changes?" Marcus smiled. "She can try, but good luck getting anything past the board. Or finance. Or operations." He clapped the younger man's shoulder. "Don't worry. We've dealt with activists and reformers before. They come in loud, leave quiet. This'll be the same." They moved toward the elevators. Simone watched them disappear behind steel doors. Her hands tightened on the portfolio. She'd suspected corruption. She'd found evidence of embezzlement, inflated contracts, kickbacks hidden in offshore accounts. But this was different. This was a conspiracy, not just financial, but cultural. A system designed to neutralize her before she even set foot in the boardroom. Marcus Trent didn't just want to undermine her. He wanted to make her irrelevant, and he assumed she'd be too inexperienced, too isolated, too outnumbered to fight back. Simone opened the portfolio. Inside were 3 things: her grandmother's reading glasses folded in a silk cloth, a flash drive containing 18 months of financial forensic analysis, and a single sheet of paper, a letter Dorothy had written the week before she died, in her shaky handwriting. "You'll walk into rooms that don't want you. Don't leave. Make them leave." Simone closed the portfolio. She stood. She walked past the reception desk, past the coffee station, straight to the executive elevators. The receptionist looked up. "Ma'am, you can't—" Simone held up her phone, showing the email from Jonathan Reed confirming her CEO appointment, the board meeting agenda, the keycard access codes sent that morning. The receptionist's face went pale. Simone pressed the call button. The doors opened. She stepped inside. If she was right, and she knew she was, everything Marcus Trent had built over 30 years would collapse by lunchtime. The elevator climbed in silence. Simone watched the floor numbers illuminate. 12, 18, 24. Her reflection fractured across polished steel. Her heart beat steady, controlled. She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind, but never like this. Never walking into a boardroom after being denied entry to her own building. The doors opened on the 40th floor. Executive suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Detroit, glass-walled offices, abstract art that cost more than most employees' annual salaries. An administrative assistant looked up from her desk, startled. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for the board meeting," the woman blinked. "It's already in session." "I know." Simone walked past her, following the corridor toward the boardroom. Behind her, she heard the assistant scrambling for her phone, whispering urgently. Simone didn't slow down. The boardroom doors were closed. Through the frosted glass, she could see silhouettes seated around the long table. She could hear Marcus Trent's voice, confident and measured, discussing Q3 projections. She opened the doors. 12 heads turned. The room fell silent. Jonathan Reed, the legal counsel, stood immediately, relief flooding his face. "Ms. Hartwell." Marcus Trent remained seated, his expression shifting from surprise to something colder. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Simone closed the doors behind her. She walked to the head of the table where an empty chair waited. Her chair. She set the leather portfolio down and met Marcus's eyes. Dr. Simone Hartwell, CEO, majority shareholder, and the person you've been discussing in my absence. A ripple of discomfort moved through the board. Marcus's smile didn't waver. "Dr. Hartwell, we were told you'd been delayed." "I was. Your security team thought I was a vendor." Someone coughed. A woman in her 60s, board member, investor relations, looked away. Marcus leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "That's unfortunate. I apologize on behalf of the organization. Sometimes our front desk staff can be overzealous about protocol. Is that what we're calling it?" The temperature in the room dropped. Marcus's smile thinned. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. I arrived 45 minutes ago and was prevented from entering the building I own." Reed cleared his throat. "Ms. Hartwell, perhaps we could address this after the meeting." "No." Simone remained standing. "We'll address it now, because what happened downstairs isn't an isolated incident. It's a symptom of a culture that needs to change immediately." Marcus set his hands flat on the table. "Dr. Hartwell, with all due respect, you've been CEO for less than an hour. I'm not sure you're in a position to diagnose our culture." "Then let me diagnose your finances instead." She opened the portfolio, pulled out the flash drive, set it in the center of the table. "I've spent 3 months analyzing this company's financial statements. Shell companies in the Caymans, inflated vendor contracts, expense reports that don't match invoices." She looked directly at Marcus. $23 million in unexplained discrepancies, all flowing through accounts you personally oversee. The silence was absolute. Marcus's face remained perfectly composed, but his jaw tightened. "That's a serious accusation." "It's a preliminary finding. The full audit will be completed next week." "By whose authority?" "Mine," he laughed, short, sharp, dismissive. "You can't waltz in here and start making accusations without evidence. The evidence is on that drive. Transaction records, emails, wire transfers, all documented." Simone glanced around the table. "Any board member is welcome to review it." No one moved. Marcus stood slowly. "This is absurd. I've served this company for 30 years. My record speaks for itself. Your record shows consistent financial underperformance hidden by creative accounting. If you'd like to dispute the findings, we can schedule a forensic review with external auditors." His eyes flashed. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake," Simone said quietly, "was assuming I wouldn't look closely at the numbers." For a moment, they stood across the table from each other, two opposing forces, two visions of what the company could be. The board members watched, frozen between them. Then Marcus smiled, cold, calculated. "Welcome to Hartwell Industries. Dr. Hartwell, I think you'll find that running a company is more complicated than reading spreadsheets. He glanced at his watch. Now, if we're done with this theater, we have actual business to conduct. He sat. The board followed his lead, returning to their agendas, their coffee cups, their silent complicity. Simone remained standing, the flash drive untouched on the table. She'd expected resistance. She'd expected defensiveness. But this casual dismissal, this refusal to even acknowledge the evidence, it told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't just about money. It was about power, and Marcus Trent had no intention of giving it up. The meeting continued. Marcus presented his Q3 report with the smooth confidence of a man who'd given the same presentation 100 times. The board asked polite questions. Numbers were discussed. Strategies were debated. Simone sat at the head of the table and said nothing. She watched Marcus, watched how the other board members deferred to him, looked to him for approval before speaking. 30 years of accumulated influence, relationships built on golf courses and cocktail parties, favors traded and remembered. She'd underestimated how deeply he was embedded. At 11:30, the meeting adjourned. Board members filed out, offering Simone polite nods and thin smiles. Marcus was the last to leave. He paused at the door. "A word of advice, Dr. Hartwell." His voice was almost kind. "This company has survived recessions, market crashes, and countless competitors. It'll survive you, too." The door closed behind him. Simone sat alone in the boardroom, staring at the flash drive still sitting in the center of the table. Untouched. Ignored. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email." She opened her laptop. The message had no subject line, no signature, just an attachment, a PDF file. She clicked it. It was a memo dated 2 weeks earlier, sent from Marcus Trent to the board's executive committee. The subject: CEO Transition Management Strategy. Simone read the first paragraph and felt her stomach drop. "Given the circumstances of Dr. Hartwell's appointment, we recommend a 6-month probationary structure with limited operational authority. All major decisions should flow through the CFO's office for review. This will ensure continuity and protect shareholder value during the transition period." The board had agreed, unanimously. She scrolled down, found another document, a draft press release announcing her appointment, buried in tracked changes and comments. One comment, from Marcus, stood out: "Let's emphasize fresh perspective," and "diversity initiative." Keep it vague on actual responsibilities. Simone closed the laptop. Her hands were shaking. They hadn't just undermined her. They'd defanged her before she even started. Every decision she tried to make would be filtered through Marcus. Every initiative would require his approval. She was CEO in title only, a figurehead, a symbol, a box checked on a diversity report. She looked out the window at the city below. 40 stories down, people moved through their lives unaware that in this boardroom, a war had just been declared. Her phone rang. Jonathan Reed. "Ms. Hartwell, I just heard there's been a situation." "What situation?" "The board met in emergency session this morning. Before you arrived." His voice was tight. "They voted to restructure executive authority. I wasn't informed until just now, I know. I saw the memo. Then you know they've effectively neutralized your position." Simone touched the leather portfolio, traced her grandmother's initials. "Jonathan, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Schedule a company-wide town hall. Tomorrow morning. Every employee. Mandatory attendance." A pause. "Ms. Hartwell, I'm not sure that's advisable given—" "I'm not asking for advice. I'm giving an order." Her voice was steel. "Can you do it?" Another pause. Then, "Yes, I'll send the notice within the hour." Simone ended the call. She gathered her belongings, placed the flash drive back in the portfolio, and stood. They thought they'd won. They thought she'd accept the terms they'd dictated, play the role they'd written for her, fade quietly into irrelevance. They didn't know who they were dealing with. She walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and watched the doors open. As she stepped inside, she caught her reflection one more time. Composed, professional, unshaken, but her eyes told a different story. She was coming for them, and she was bringing everything. That night, Simone sat in her hotel room overlooking the Detroit River. She'd booked a suite at the Westin, neutral ground, away from the headquarters, away from the eyes that had watched her all day. The city glowed below, indifferent to her crisis. She'd ordered room service but couldn't eat. Her laptop sat open on the desk, filled with documents she'd read a dozen times. The memo, the emails, the web of complicity that extended through every level of Hartwell Industries' leadership. She'd faced boardroom battles before, hostile negotiations, competitors who'd underestimated her. But this was different. This was personal in a way that felt both familiar and devastating. They didn't just disagree with her strategy. They didn't want her there at all. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "How was your first day, baby?" Simone stared at the message. How could she explain? How could she tell her mother, Dorothy's daughter, who'd watched her own mother scrub floors and swallow indignities, that even at the top, even as CEO, even with majority shares and Ivy League degrees, she was still being told to wait in the lobby? She didn't respond. Instead, she opened the portfolio, pulled out her grandmother's letter. Read it again in the dim light. You'll walk into rooms that don't want you. Don't leave. Make them leave. Simone folded the letter carefully, set it aside, closed her eyes. She thought about quitting, selling her shares, walking away, letting Marcus Trent and his corrupt regime collapse under their own weight eventually. She'd made her money. She'd proven her point. She didn't need this fight. But then she thought about the receptionist who'd dismissed her, the security guard who'd treated her like a threat, Derek Callahan's condescending smile, Marcus Trent's casual arrogance. She thought about every young black professional who'd walk into that building after her, carrying their own portfolios, their own dreams, their own grandmother's lessons. What would they find? The same culture? The same barriers? The same system designed to keep them small? Simone opened her eyes. She picked up her phone and started making calls. First, to her forensic accountant. I need the full audit by tomorrow morning. Everything. Second, to her attorney. I need legal opinions on board authority limits and shareholder rights. Tonight. Third, to a contact at the Detroit Free Press. I might have a story for you. Embezzlement, corporate fraud, systemic discrimination. Interested? By midnight, she'd built a strategy. Not just to survive, to win. The portfolio sat open on the desk, Dorothy's initials catching the light. This was for her. Simone arrived at headquarters at 6:30 the next morning, before most employees. The lobby was empty except for a different security guard, an older black man who nodded respectfully as she passed. She rode the elevator to 40, walked past the executive suite, and found Jonathan Reed already in his office, looking exhausted. It's done, he said. Town hall at 9. Every employee's been notified. Marcus tried to cancel it. Let me guess. You overruled him. Reed managed a tired smile. I cited your authority as CEO and majority shareholder. He wasn't pleased. Good. Simone set her portfolio on his desk. I need you to distribute something during the town hall. She handed him the flash drive. Reed turned it over in his hands. The financial evidence? Everything. Transaction records, emails, account numbers. I want it projected on every screen in that auditorium. Ms. Hartwell, that's... He hesitated. That's scorched earth. Yes. Marcus will sue. The board will revolt. You could be tied up in litigation for years. Simone met his eyes. Or I could end this today. Reed looked at the flash drive, then at her. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He nodded slowly. Then I'm with you. At 8:15, Simone walked through the headquarters observing. Employees gathered in clusters, whispering about the mandatory meeting. Some looked curious, others anxious. A few, mostly executives, looked angry. She passed Marcus Trent in the hallway. He was on his phone, his voice low and urgent. When he saw her, he ended the call. "Dr. Hartwell, I hope you're not planning anything rash." Define rash. Grandstanding. Making accusations you can't prove. Burning bridges on your first week. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I've been trying to help you. Ease your transition. But if you insist on making this adversarial, you'll find you have very few allies." Simone tilted her head. "I don't need allies, Marcus. I need honesty." "Honesty?" He laughed. "You want honesty? Fine. This company doesn't want you. The board doesn't trust you. The employees don't respect you. You were hired to fill a quota, and everyone knows it. Is that what you tell yourself?" "It's what I know." His eyes were cold. "You have a choice. Play along, collect your salary, and let the adults run things. Or fight, lose, and be remembered as another failed diversity experiment." Simone held his gaze. "There's a third option, which is, I dismantle everything you've built, and I do it in front of everyone." Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're welcome to try." He walked away. Simone checked her watch. 8:45. She headed toward the auditorium. The auditorium held 300 employees. Every seat was filled. People lined the walls, stood in the aisles. Simone could feel the tension. Anticipation mixed with confusion. Curiosity edged with resistance. At the front, a podium. Behind it, a massive screen. Jonathan Reed stood near the AV equipment, the flash drive in his hand. Simone walked to the podium. The room quieted. She didn't have notes. "Didn't need them. Good morning. My name is Dr. Simone Hartwell, and as of yesterday, I'm your CEO." Her voice carried clearly, amplified by speakers but needing no enhancement. "Some of you met me yesterday. Others watched me get stopped by security in the lobby. A few of you laughed. Uncomfortable silence. I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to tell you the truth about this company. And the truth is this. Hartwell Industries has been systematically defrauded for years by senior leadership." A ripple moved through the crowd. Near the back, Marcus Trent stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "I've spent 3 months analyzing financial records. What I found is $23 million in unexplained discrepancies, fake vendor contracts, offshore accounts, kickbacks hidden in consulting fees." She nodded to Reed. "Jonathan, if you would." The screen lit up. Spreadsheets appeared, rows of transactions highlighted in red, wire transfers to shell companies, invoices for services never rendered, email chains discussing how to hide the money. Gasps rippled through the auditorium. Employees leaned forward, reading the screen. "The numbers were damning," Simone continued. "These transactions all flow through one department. Finance, specifically, through accounts controlled by one person." She pulled up an email. The sender, Marcus Trent. The subject line, Quarterly Adjustments. The email was clinical, coded, but clear to anyone who understood corporate fraud. Instructions on how to move money between accounts. Reminders to destroy paper trails. Assurances that our arrangement remains secure. Marcus moved toward the front, his voice sharp. "This is a witch hunt. You're taking documents out of context? Am I?" Simone pulled up another document. Bank statements showing transfers from Hartwell Industries to an account in Marcus Trent's name. $2 million over 5 years. The room erupted. Voices overlapping, people standing, phones coming out to photograph the screen. Marcus's face had gone pale. That account was for legitimate consulting work, for a company you own. That has no employees. That's registered in the Cayman Islands. Simone's voice cut through the noise. You've been embezzling from this company for years, and you used your position to ensure no one looked too closely. This is defamation. It's evidence. And there's more. She pulled up HR records. Promotions based on loyalty rather than merit. Discriminatory hiring practices. A culture where speaking up gets you sidelined or fired. She looked around the room. How many of you have seen this? How many have been passed over, ignored, or silenced? Slowly, hands began to rise. First a few, then dozens. A woman near the front stood. I reported expense irregularities 3 years ago. I was told to drop it, or I'd lose my job. A man in the middle. I was denied promotion 5 times. They kept hiring externally instead. More voices joined. A cascade of grievances, years of frustration, injustices small and large that had been buried under Marcus Trent's regime. Marcus tried to speak. This is over. Simone's voice was steel. Your tenure here is over. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending a full criminal investigation. Security will escort you out. 2 security guards appeared at the back, including Morrison, who'd stopped Simone in the lobby. He walked to Marcus, his expression neutral but firm. Marcus looked around the room, searching for allies. Found none. The board members in attendance looked away. His executive team sat frozen. He turned to Simone, his voice low and venomous. You have no idea what you've just done. I've done exactly what I came here to do. I've told the truth. Morrison gestured toward the exit. Marcus hesitated, then walked, his shoulders rigid, his face a mask of barely contained rage. The auditorium watched him leave. The doors closed. Silence. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. Then another. Then the room erupted, applause thundering off the walls, people standing, some crying, others cheering. Simone stood at the podium, her hands gripping the edges. She'd won, but she didn't feel triumphant. She felt exhausted. When the applause finally faded, she spoke again, her voice quiet. This company has a long way to go. Fixing what's broken won't happen overnight. But it starts now, with transparency, with accountability, with treating every person in this building with the dignity they deserve. She looked around the room, at the faces watching her, hopeful and uncertain and ready. Yesterday, I was stopped in the lobby because someone decided I didn't belong. Today, I'm standing here telling you, everyone belongs. As long as you're honest, as long as you work with integrity, you have a place here. She closed the portfolio, picked it up. Thank you for listening. Now let's get to work. The applause returned, louder this time, sustained. Simone left the podium and walked through the crowd. People reached out, hands to shake, words of thanks, tears of relief. She made it to the hallway, leaned against the wall, closed her eyes. It was done. 2 weeks later, Simone stood in her office, officially hers now, redesigned with open space and natural light. The old CEO's mahogany fortress had been dismantled. In its place, glass walls, collaborative furniture, art from local Detroit artists. The changes went deeper than decoration. Marcus Trent had been arrested. Federal prosecutors were building a case for embezzlement, wire fraud, and tax evasion. Derek Callahan had resigned. 3 board members had stepped down. The rest had voted unanimously to grant Simone full operational authority. The company was bleeding, yes, but the wound was finally clean. Jonathan Reed knocked on the open door. You have a minute? Always. He handed her a folder. New hire applications. 200 in the last week. Word's gotten out about what you did. Simone flipped through. Credentials from across the country. People who wanted to work for a company that had chosen truth over complicity. She smiled. We'll need a bigger HR team. Already on it. Reed hesitated. There's something else. The media's asking for interviews. The board wants you to do a press tour. Talk about the turnaround, No, no, this isn't about me. It's about the work. The company speaks for itself. Reed nodded, not surprised. I'll handle it. After he left, Simone walked to the window. The city stretched below, Detroit in all its complicated beauty. A place built by labor, broken by greed, fighting to rebuild with dignity. She opened the leather portfolio one last time. Her grandmother's reading glasses, the letter, the flash drive that had changed everything. She traced Dorothy's initials. D.H. We did it. Grandma, she whispered. The silence felt different now. Not the silence of exclusion, but the silence of respect, of space created for new voices, of systems dismantled and rebuilt. It sounded like possibility. 6 months later, Simone returned to the lobby where it had all begun. The marble floors still gleamed. The chandeliers still hung, but everything else had changed. A new receptionist smiled as Simone entered, a young black woman with natural hair and confident eyes. "Good morning, Dr. Hartwell." "Good morning, Angela." Simone walked past the spot where Morrison had stopped her. The security guard was still there, but now he nodded with genuine respect. The waiting area where she'd sat, dismissed and invisible, now held a small plaque. Leadership is not about being in the room. It's about making sure everyone has a seat at the table. Dr. Simone Hartwell, she rode the elevator to the 40th floor, but she didn't stop at her office. She continued to the training center, where 30 new hires sat in orientation. She wasn't scheduled to speak, but she wanted to see them. The next generation, the people who'd build the company's future. They looked up when she entered, surprised. She didn't give a speech, just said 5 words. "You belong here. Remember that." And then she left. Later, in her office, she drafted an email to the board. A proposal to establish a leadership institute named after her grandmother. A program to mentor young professionals from underrepresented backgrounds, to give them the tools Dorothy never had and Simone had fought for. The board approved it unanimously. That night, Simone stood on her apartment balcony, portfolio in hand. She opened it one last time, read her grandmother's letter in the fading light. "You'll walk into rooms that don't want you. Don't leave. Make them leave." She'd done exactly that. And in the process, she'd changed the room itself. They'd laughed at her once. Those men in the lobby and the boardroom, those people who saw her skin before her credentials, her presence before her power. But underestimation is a gift. It reveals who people are when they think no one's watching, and it gives you the element of surprise when you prove them wrong. Simone closed the portfolio, set it on the table beside her grandmother's reading glasses. Tomorrow, she'd return to headquarters. There would be challenges. There always were. Markets to navigate, competitors to outsmart, cultures to continue transforming. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of peace. They'd made her wait in the lobby. Now she owned the building, and she was just getting started.